specifically for people for 8 week challenges, but I have maintenance prizes worked in. They're not going to be as big. Maybe they will be bigger later on, but what I want to do is for people to join for a long term for the accountability and for the group and things like that, and realizing that it's not just 8 weeks, it's really, 2 to 5 years or whatever it is to reach your goal and then maintain. So we'll Amy, I'll explain it, and then maybe we can talk about your, if you don't mind, I'm putting you on the spot, talking about your specific journey, because it is really what you truly have to do. And this is, I laugh when I say this because this is, I'm going to say man's, but that's a very gender biased thing to say. But we all want to build muscle, and we all want to go on a bulk because it's more fun. You get to eat more calories, but we
It's not,
always do it.
it's not more fun.
We always do it. You should do it when you have gotten as lean as you want to get. But we all do it before that, and then we end up messing up. And I struggled with this for years because I was like, whatever, I'm close enough. I'm going to start bulking now. And then it's just, then you gain weight. And because when you're gaining muscle, you will gain a little bit of fat and you get out of it. And it's just like a never ending cycle. But and Amy's a good example of this. Leanne Ryan is a good example of this. Trisha is a good example of this. Benny is a good example of this. There's lots of people. It's the first goal is to reach your fat loss goal. And that's where all of your effort should be dedicated for fat loss, and then building healthy habits along the way. Because again, when we want to put the whole picture in view about health and happiness and sustainability, knowing that you're not just going to lose fat in a linear line. Once you've reached your fat loss goal, and I also say the number on the scale is definitely probably not the number you think it is. A lot of people think I want to be the weight I was in high school, but you had no muscle in high school, probably. So it might be a higher number than you think it is. So it should be, I want to lose fat until I feel the best I ever have, and I'm happy with the leanness of my body. That's probably a terrible way to put it, but that just is what it is. And then maintenance looks different for everyone. So it is the same path as we are on right now. In 3 to 4 week blocks, we manage our nutrition, we have our average calories. Eventually you're going to get to your goal body weight. And then you have to do the same thing. You have to measure 3 to 4 weeks at a time, and maybe you can give up calorie counting at this point. And that's where I'm at now. But I just kind of know what's in everything. You measure for 3 to 4 weeks. If you stayed the same, then that's your maintenance calories. And if you lost weight, then you need to increase your calories if you want to go up in weight again. And if you gained weight, then you have to decrease your calories. So it's a never ending, like 3 to 4 week blocks for the rest of your life, unfortunately. But you may choose the path of, I'm going to reach my fat loss goal, and then I'm going to focus on my muscle building goals. That might not be everyone's goal, but that is a goal that some people get to when they get to their fat loss goal. So then it's the exact same thing. It's, I have my calorie deficit, I have my calories for maintenance. Now I need to figure out my calorie surplus. So we do the same thing. We track our calories and our protein. And then every 3 to 4 weeks, did I gain adequate amount of muscle? If yes, that's the calories that it takes to gain muscle right now. If no, then I need to add calories. And the opposite of fat loss, I might need to decrease exercise. So you might be doing too much cardio if you're trying to build a lot of muscle. Santana Anderson, he owns O2 Wellness in Bedford. He won the National Bodybuilding Championship. He had come sixth many years ago when I was in university, and he came to speak to my class. And it was funny, very openly on steroids, and that's okay. That's the whole world of bodybuilding is on steroids. But back then, there was no flexibility to the nutrition. So when he was bulking, he would eat 6 meals a day, 3 chicken, 3 beef, 2 pounds of meat. He had to deal with a local butcher. And so it was, 6 times 2, 12 pounds of meat per day and 2 cups of rice. He would go to the gym, and then he would come home and he would lay down instead of sit up to watch TV, because laying down burns less calories than sitting up. So that's how serious you have to be. This is an elite athlete who wants to win the national bodybuilding championship, right? And get his pro card. And then when he was cutting, it was still 3 chicken and 3 beef per day, but it was a pound instead of 2 pounds. And it was a cup of rice instead of 2 cups of rice. So that just goes to show it's a journey that requires a lot of trial and error and a lot of attention to detail. So I thought that was a good story. I like telling that story. And yeah, so Amy, you want to talk about your kind of your journey and any reflections that you think will be important for the group?
Yeah, so I like how you said that you probably not going to be the body weight that you were in high school, and that you just want to get like, as lean as you want to get, whatever that may be for you. And it might not be a certain number on the scale. So those of you, I think most people are familiar with my story in this group, but quick recap. I started at Evolve as a client 7.5 years ago. And I was overweight. I was floating around 200 pounds at the time. If you've ever seen my before and after pictures, they're, I think, actually up on the wall at Evolve, maybe. So I kind of started like just wanting to lose fat, and I actually didn't have a body weight goal in mind. I didn't have like a goal weight. I just kind of knew that I wanted to be healthier and smaller. And so I kind of got to the point I lost about 50, 60 pounds in the first probably about a year and a half-ish, maybe. And then from there, I just wanted to get really strong. And this was before I compete in powerlifting now, but this was before I was even competing. I just knew that I felt really good and wanted to get really strong. And so I kind of went into maintenance mode, but I have to be honest, I wasn't paying like super close attention. I counted my calories the entire time while I was losing weight. I can't honestly remember if I was like super, like still counting calories, or if I kind of just gave that up for a little while. But then when I kind of got into powerlifting, I wanted to get really strong. And then I was like, okay, I need to put on more muscle and get more strong. And that's when I kind of got into these like bulking phases, like Matt said. And let me tell you, it is not, you think it might be fun because you can eat a lot of food. But it is not fun. It is like it's just you're miserable on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I would honestly go as far as to say I hate bulking more than I hate trying to lose weight. Like I find it that much more difficult to actually eat enough food and stay focused. But the goal with maintenance kind of, and then for the last like about 2 years, I've actually been working with an outside nutrition coach for myself, a performance nutrition coach. And a lot of that has dealt with keeping me in maintenance. And so it's kind of like we just slowly experiment, and we slowly kind of are like, okay, we're going to eat this much food for a couple of weeks. We're going to just assess how's my body weight. Okay, if it stays the same, we're actually going to add about another 100 calories a day, because the goal is to eat as much food as you can without gaining weight when you're in maintenance. Because that way, if you do go into a phase, so maybe you've been focusing on weight loss for several months or a year, and you just want to kind of maybe you want to take a break, maintain for a little while, and then do another, push for weight loss. The more food that you can pack into you when you're in maintenance, the more effect it's going to have when you do have to shave a few calories off to go back into weight loss again. But again, it's just about experimenting. It's like you kind of monitor it for a few weeks. Okay, have I lost weight? Have I gained weight? We adjust the calories, and then we keep moving forward. Um, that might have been a little bit all over the place, but is that helpful?
Yeah, I would say do you remember, this might be a tough question. Do you remember, oh, that's a great question too, but from Tanya. I'll read the question to you. Do you remember how many calories you were eating at the end of your weight loss journey compared to how many you eat now?
Yeah, so I was down like towards the end of like losing weight. I was down, I want to say like around 1,500 maybe to be like consistently, keeping up my weight loss. And I eat now, my maintenance calories are actually about 2,700 calories a day, just because I put on so much muscle since then. Now we're talking like this is like a period of, I mean, we're talking like 7 years ago. This isn't something that happens overnight. But yeah, it's a big difference.
And what's your weight now? If you don't mind sharing your weight, sorry to
Yeah,
put you
no,
on the
it's
spot.
okay. Not at all.
I guess we know
Um,
what category. I guess we know what category you're in for your your
yeah,
competitions.
that's very
What's your weight?
okay.
Yeah, what's your weight now compared to the end of the weight loss?
Yeah, so the end of the weight loss, I think I was down. My lowest point, I was at about 123 pounds. That's what I had kind of weighed in at one point for one competition, which was a little bit too low for me, to be honest. And now I'm kind of float between 136 and 138 because we know we have those day-to-day fluctuations, but I'm kind of floating in the high 30s.
And you probably look about the same amount of lean.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
would say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like Amy said, this is like a 7 years, right? And if you, I think I have a video coming out talking about bodybuilders and my terrible graphs that I make. But what Amy has done is similar to what a bodybuilder would do in that they would do a period of muscle gain, knowing that they're going to gain some fat, and then they would do a cut, knowing that they're going to lose some muscle. But every time they do it, they end up at a higher weight, but the same amount of leanness. And
Mhm.
then they do it again, and they end up at a higher weight and the same amount of leanness. And it's very tedious and it takes a very long time, but that's how you can be heavier on the scale, carry more muscle, but still wear the same size jeans, maybe not around the quads and your muscular areas. But again, Amy's talking about being a 15-pound difference, but she's just as lean. She's way more strong. She carries more muscle and she gets to eat like over 1,000 calories more per day on maintenance now because of the muscle. So
Yeah.
that's a really kind of important reflection, I feel.
Yeah. So you have to like when you go through like the bulking phase or the gaining phase and you kind of the idea is that you'll build the muscle, you'll get a little bit of fat with that. But then you go through the maintenance and the cutting phase and you lose fat, you lose a little bit of muscle, but you don't lose as much as you gained during your bulking phase. And we're not talking a ton of muscle here, like an entire bulking phase of say maybe like 3 months, you might put on like 2 pounds of muscle. And then you lose maybe like half a pound or a pound of that when you're going through that kind of that cutting or weight loss phase again. Um, and
That
so there's another question here. So even with muscle increase, BMI is within normal range. So I like to think of, and Matt, you can jump in here anytime. BMI is a really good indicator for general population when looked at in conjunction with other numbers. I will say that my BMI right now, actually, I'm borderline obese according to my BMI because BMI only takes into account your height and your total body weight. It doesn't take into account how much of that weight is muscle, how much of that weight is fat. So again, like this is something that I've worked really hard for the last 7 years. For, the average person and like most of the population, again, BMI is a good, indicator, like I said, when looked at in conjunction with like body fat percent and stuff. Um, it's kind of like a take it with a grain of salt kind of thing.
you said something very important there as well, in that you're spending 3 months to gain 2 pounds of muscle, and that's awesome. And
Mhm.
that's awesome, but the average person is thinking that they need to gain all of this muscle and that it's a very fast process. But the truth is that gaining muscle is far more challenging than losing fat. So
Yes.
that's an important reflection. And again, always driving home that you can lose muscle, and if you're strength training, you will get stronger.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
explain this to my women's group a lot too that I work with. Like you've got building muscle is one process and then building strength is another process. They're obviously very related, but there's building physical muscle mass comes from eating the calories and lifting the weights. And then building the strength is kind of like you're taking the muscle that you have and teaching it to be strong. So you can still absolutely do that while your muscle mass is kind of changing or even dropping a little bit.
yeah, I'm glad we went there. This was a really good and needed conversation. And to Judy's point, and I think that this is also a really good reflection as well. Really, I wish I knew that point to focus on fat loss first when I started at Evolve last year. And I would say that that's not necessarily true because yes, if you have a fat loss goal, we want to help you with fat loss. But often I would say that if somebody's coming in new, and I'm not sure where you were coming in from, but if somebody has, I actually had the most beautiful conversation with somebody today. I